Hi everybody, welcome back to Mando Lessons. This is the next lesson in the series on different strum patterns. This lesson is going to be on some sort of Irish style backing. We're going to try to imitate either a sort of cross tune, drop D, dadgad style guitar, or a bouzouki, or other instruments that are used for backing up Irish traditional music. There's a couple different ways to do it. One of them uses cross picking, which the previous lesson in this series was on. And the other style is more of just sort of playing through the strings. So if you haven't seen the other lessons, I recommend checking those out and getting those under your fingers, as they'll help you with this lesson. And those are available over at mandolessons.com. And if you've seen those already, let's jump into this Irish style backing. If you find these lessons helpful, there's a couple ways to donate over at mandolessons.com, and that's always appreciated. Helps me keep the site running. But if not, that's totally fine too, and the lessons are free for a reason. So let's use the key of D, common key for a lot of Irish tunes. So let's start with the cross picking pattern. It's going to be the same pattern that we used in the previous video, just the G, D, and A strings with a nice down up, down up, down up, down up in our right hand. Get that little motor going. And what Irish backing has sort of become is you're sort of working with this you kind of end up working with a bass line. So a lot of times what I do if I'm playing bouzouki, which is tuned kind of like a mandolin, except the E string is down to a D, but it doesn't really matter because on the mandolin we're not going to be playing the E string. Starts in the 7th fret, and at this point use whatever fingers work best for you. I'm going to use my 3rd finger, middle finger, pointer finger, maybe slide down. But you're going to be walking down this D scale, starting on a D, and then it's going to go down to the 6th fret is a C sharp, down to a B, 4th fret, then down to 2nd fret, which is an A, down to an open G, and then back up 2nd fret, 4th fret, 6th fret, 7th fret, back to D, our starting point. So let's do that one more time. Starts in the 7th fret, down to 6, down to 4, down to 2, down to open, up to 2, up to 4, up to 6, up to 7. That's where we started. So that's our left hand. That's pretty much all our left hand is going to be doing. And our right hand now adds that cross-picking pattern, and it looks like this. Up to 2, up to 4, up to 6, up to 7. So again, our right hand is just going down, up, down, up, down, up, down. G, D, A, D, G, D, A, D. So let's get that scale going again. Starting now, D. Again, 6th fret. 4th. 2nd. Open. 2nd, 4th, 6th, 7th, etc. So what we're doing here is we're kind of walking this little bass line. It's as bassy as a mandolin gets, really, but it'll have to do. And what we're doing there is we're kind of implying different chords. So if we think about the notes, we've got a D, and an A. Kind of sounds like a D chord. Pretty simple. Not a whole lot going on there. And then we walk down to a C sharp. Now C sharp, if you play those notes kind of on their own, it's pretty crunchy sounding. but we're going to call that an A chord, because if you think about this A chord, which you might know, it's got this C sharp in it. And so that C sharp, or also this A chord, 6-2, open, open, another great A chord. They have this C sharp. A C sharp is kind of that 6th fret or the 4th fret on the A string. It's really kind of a defining note in an A chord, especially in the key of D. So we're going to call that an A chord, even though if someone walked up to you and said, hey, how do you play an A chord on a mandolin? And you said, oh, it sounds like this. They're kind of look at you funny because it doesn't really sound like an A chord. But in context, sort of starting with that note above it and going to the note below, it works as a nice kind of passing chord. So we're going to call that an A chord. So starting, we have a D chord with the 7th fret, then an A chord, and then we go to the 4th fret. Now the 4th fret, we're going to call it a G chord because this G, you probably know this chord shape, 2nd fret on the A string is a B note, and so the B, like the C sharp, is the defining note in an A chord in the key of D. The B is the defining note in a G chord in the key of D, or one of the defining notes, but it's the note we're working with. All the other notes are staying the same. We have a D and an A, always going, and our G string is walking D, C sharp, B, A, etc. So that B is kind of telling us it sounds somewhat like a G chord. So now we've got D chord, A chord, G chord, and then we go down to the 2nd fret. So we have, that's an A, D, A. That can either be an A chord or it could be a D chord. Things sort of start to have more than one option. Technically, it's more of a D chord because it has a D and an A in it. But because the only thing that's really moving, the thing that our ears pick up on, the change, is just this D, C sharp, B, A. And for those of you that know a little bit of music theory, there's an A in an A chord. It's the root of an A chord, and it's also the 5th note in a D scale, or the 5th of a sort of chord relation for a D major chord. You have D, F sharp, and A. So some of these chords can use sort of different names. They're sort of compromise chords. So likewise with that G chord on the 4th fret, that could be a B minor, just because it's got a B and a D. We'll call it what you will. It's more what it does is this is telling our ears different bits of information, and the names are less important. And then we go down from that 2nd fret, open G. And we'll call that a G chord because it's got a G and a D in it. Now it's got that A, which isn't really in a G chord, but because that note isn't changing and it's always kind of droning along, our ears sort of just let it fade into the background and really concentrates on that moving line. So, if there's a tune that's going along, that's a lot of Irish tunes can, they fit in well with that sort of drony style and the moving bass. Let's see. I'll try to sing and play at the same time. We'll see if it works. Etc. So you can just kind of play around with that scale, you don't always need to go straight down and straight back up. Play around with it. For example, in that I was kind of leaving out the G, the low open G, down to 6, down to 4, and 2, back to 7, 6, and to 4, 2, down 7, then we're going down to 6, then we're going down to 4, then we're going down to 2, etc. Or you can go back up. So really just kind of play around with it. Your ear will start to lead you where it wants to go, because if you hit a note that really doesn't sound right, you'll kind of go, ooh, let's not do that again. But that's a nice pattern, and I recommend listening to some Irish music and what people are doing, backing up. Folks like John Doyle are a great example of playing in the sort of the Irish style. Some people get a little farther out than others, but try to find some bouzouki players or some drop D or dadgad guitar players and that are playing behind traditional Irish melodies, and just listen to that a lot, and that'll really inform your choices and what you should be doing. It's hard to play music if you don't know what it should sound like. So if you're interested in playing Irish style backing, whether on mandolin or any instrument, my big recommendation is just to listen to as much of it as you can, and that'll make you a better player as much as practicing all these things will. So that's all for now. In the next lesson, we'll do the same sort of thing, just with a different right hand. We're going to work on jig rhythm, which uses a different right hand pattern. But other than that, it's going to be a lot of the same material. So check that out if you want to learn to play some jigs. Again, thanks for watching. More lessons over at mandolessons.com, and hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.